Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's starting their weekend well, having a great day. So, in the title of this talk sounds pretty provocative, but it's really not. Don't be an idiot. Okay, so this really isn't a pejorative. This goes back to the ancient Greek sense of idiot. It actually means that you're a private person, kind of like some people that know what's going on in the community. They are not private. They have, in a sense, they're public. They interact with society. Now, the idiot, in this sense, is the one that's outside of the society. Now, this isn't talking about, if you're an introvert or an extrovert. The idea is that this goes back to ancient philosophy. Aristotle thought that humans, what's one sense that we are different than animals is that one, we have a rational ability to do things abstractly, to our mind being able to grasp other things like the nature of things, their essence, things like this. But another sense that humans were distinguished from animals is that in addition to them being rational, they were also political. Not in the sense of like we're thinking, Democrat versus Republican, libertarian, or something like that. But the idea is that for you to thrive, you have to be connected to a society, and you have to grow. Now, and again, this isn't the introvert versus extrovert distinction. It's a more the objective necessity to grow. So, for instance, if you don't teach your child language and you don't expose them to human language, the first few years of life, they may not actually have the right neural pathways to learn language. We've seen this in the studies of what they call feral children, horrible, horrible events where children were somehow deprived of any loving, compassionate human interaction where they can develop language. So in many senses, we are political animals that we have to be connected to what the Greeks call the polis. We would think of it as like a city, but think of it like a center where everybody comes together and communicates and builds things, has some type of community. So when you're saying idiot, in that sense, we need to be a part of society to fully function and thrive. And then also, if you have no connection to it, then you're not only just missing something and like, oh, this guy doesn't like ice cream or he doesn't like watch sports. It's not something like that. It's something much more fundamental. If you are outside of the community completely, then that could be something very serious. It could be something that you have a serious deficit. Okay, so that's just the background. So when I say don't be an idiot, yes, I am being a little glib because most people are like, what is this? Is this guy calling me an idiot or calling some people an idiot? Well, not exactly. So don't be an idiot. And what I mean here, now that I have that background, don't be a historical idiot. Okay, so think about yesterday I had a discussion about focusing on ideas rather than focusing all one's attention on people or events. And I argued that if we did immerse ourselves in discussing ideas and wrestling with perennial concepts that humans have been wrestling with for centuries, that we would live a different type of life. And basically, that would be a distilled idea of education. If you have a good education where you wrestle with the perennial ideas of struggle and, wrestling with the fact that we are mortals and we will die and we have to come to terms with what our legacy will be and what we struggle for and what we avoid, if we wrestle with these deep ideas that all humanity has wrestled with from centuries and millennia past, we're going to be a different type of person. Now, if you focus specifically on history, if you lack any historical context, you don't know how great it is. You don't know how amazing it is to be alive today. So there's some charts here. Go online, look up human progress in so many charts. There's a ton of stuff out there, but there are a few major things that, if you look at the graphs, are just amazing. Just in the last few centuries, we are making huge strides. And when I'm more specifically, poverty is being eliminated. I mean, is it completely gone? No, there's a lot of people suffering, but you got about 7 billion people. Okay. And you have to look in history, like look at centuries past, like there's certain points in history where a plague like takes away a third or two-thirds of the entire population. That would be the equivalent of like 100 or 200 million people die in the United States. The numbers are staggering. Um, so disease control, extreme poverty is declining at a very rapid rate. Literacy is so much better on the planet than it has been. Child mortality, the list goes on and on and on. The ability to move from one place to another, the ability to choose your own career, the ability to say, hey, I want to do something else. It is amazing. The average American is far closer to what we think of as an aristocrat a few centuries ago than what we normally think. But you can only get this appreciation if you have a historical context. And I would guess that you probably didn't get this in high school. You kind of thought, if there was anything like I got, history just seems so detached. You weren't learning about the tapestry of your own human experience. That is, you weren't learning what it is to be a human being, on a large scope. It was just kind of like facts and figures and, okay, I'll pass the test, stuff like that. But if we're not historical idiots, okay, and I mean that in the ancient Greek sense, if we are part of the community that knows what's actually happened in centuries past and what's happening across the world, and we can make those comparisons and contrasts, it's hard to be, really grateful for what we actually live in. So it's very common. I run into undergrads and at the university, and a lot of them are just so negative, and they actually think they have so many setbacks that other people haven't had, and it's just astounding. I mean, this is the time where you have supercomputers that you can put in your pockets, and that's common. It is really astounding. The options for your careers or for fast healthcare, it is staggering. There are so many amazing things happening, but you can't see how amazing it is until you have acquaintance with history. Okay, so, and I'm not plugging, hey, go to college, study history, go to your library, pick some history courses. I don't know. If the History Channel is actually good, I'd say, hey, look at the History Channel. But there's all kinds of things out there if you look. Okay, but be historically literate. Okay, read a book. Know that we live in an amazing time, but you can't appreciate the amazing time unless there's a contrast. Similar, if you took a white pencil and you wrote on white paper, would you see it very well? No, there's no contrast. Okay, you need to have a contrast so that you have context. So how good is our life right now? Well, sometimes there's ups and downs. Sometimes you have money. Sometimes you have less money. Since I decided to come work on my PhD, I definitely don't have as much money as I did when I had a better job. But you know what? We made a decision, and you have to look at things in context. Okay, the idea that I could move from one state to another to pursue some opportunity, the ability that I can jump on this machine and fly across the country, or travel, or invest in various things, or communicate with you via this computer. It's astounding. The options, there's never been more options. So it's very sad when you see people that are very negative about what their possibilities are, their opportunities are. So that makes me sad. So in any case, just to sum up, so if you look at the idea of idiot, meaning basically you're a private person outside of the community, apply that to historical ideas and context. And if we have historical context, if we understand how great it is to be alive right now, okay, you're going to necessarily have a different level of gratitude. Okay, so wrestle with the idea how great it is on so many levels. Does that mean everything's perfect? No. Does that mean the world is free of evil people? No. There's always been evil people. There always will be. It's in the human heart. It's going to exist in every society, no matter which one. There are different political systems that work better than others. There's all of these things. And this, I don't want to go into a big tangent, but the idea is that if you have a historical context to your current situation, you're going to view things in a totally different way. And it's very easy to waste your time spinning your wheels on the wrong direction. But the very fact that you have time to look at a video like this on Facebook, on your smartphone, which is essentially a supercomputer, okay, like 100,000, maybe 1,000 times more powerful than the computers used to first send humans outer space. It's crazy. Okay, life is so amazing, but you have to understand the contrast, the difference between what it could be. Imagine if you were born 100 years ago or 200 years ago. It's better to be a middle-class American now, I would argue, than it was even 100 years ago to be the leader of some country or to be some king. Um, Air conditioning, the access to information. I, as a person who loves reading and studying, I have access to more information than um, philosophers did 1,000 years ago or 100 years ago. I don't need even to go to college to get a great education. It's basically free. There's so many resources that it just takes a little bit of persistence to go through finding the resources because there's so many. Okay, we literally have problems of surplus rather than scarcity. It really is astounding. We live in a wonderful age, and if we don't have gratitude, then I would question whether you actually have historical background. So if you are feeling ungrateful for being in this country or being in this time period, that's sad. That's really sad. And you should ask yourself, are you being a historical idiot? And again, I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm talking about if you look at yourself where you can be in any time period or different country, in any place, and you get to be born in the United States at this time, 2000, whatever, um, it's amazing. Are there problems? Yes. That is the human experience. We do wrestle with problems. So it's not to say that this is perfect, okay? But if you study history, it is an amazing time to be alive. And if you don't think that on a visceral level, then take a step back. Why? Why would we be so negative? I mean, it's just crazy to me. So, anyways, to recap, if you want to live a good life, if you want to see things in proper context, study history. And this doesn't mean you have to get a PhD in history. It doesn't mean you have to be a history buff. But if you can wrestle with the fact that so many things are better, and they're getting better. I mean, we literally might see cures to cancer. I think they already make some strides on HIV. There's so many things out there, so many amazing things. And in fact, there are so many things out there that it would actually take a large amount of time just to see how many amazing things out there. It really is astounding. So I am kind of going on in tangents, but this is something I feel passionate about. We live in an amazing time with so many options that our forebears probably wouldn't even believe. They would think that we're just using the moonshine too early in the morning or something like that. There are so many possibilities. And to access those possibilities, you need knowledge and wisdom. Okay? And knowledge and wisdom is something that I feel passionate about, and that's why I'm building stuff on commonphilosopher.com. That's the reason why I have these talks. And by trying to communicate the things that I'm grateful for and what I think make my life and my family's life and your life better, that helps me apply the things that I've told other people. And that is when you learn something, share that with other people. And when you do that, you wrestle with it in a different way. If you've ever taught anything to another person, you'll know that you learn a lot by teaching. I learn a lot about philosophy by teaching philosophy. I learn a lot about ethics by teaching ethics, or logic by teaching logic. So, think about where you're at. You could have been born 100 years ago. I'm in Nebraska right now. I really love getting in my air-conditioned home, my air-conditioned car. I can solve most of my problems with phone calls. If I want to get into a different career, I can. I could go to another part of the country. We can go to another part of the world. I can even look at the parts of the world with, video cameras and drones before I even have to get there. I mean, the people who went into, they settled the West in the United States earlier on, they literally had rusty tools with some oxen, and, they had to wrestle with dysentery and all this other stuff, make houses out of, bricks that they carved out of the dirt. I mean, it's crazy. You know, we live in such a blessed time, and the only appropriate response is gratitude. Okay, so let's all be more grateful. Thanks for listening. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you tomorrow.